The final hour of voting in Texas.
This is my first time voting.
This year I had a lot of anxiety because I was very, very unsure of who I was going to vote for.
The record turnout and the biggest local races on the ballot. Businesses boarded up. How Austin police are preparing for possible violence throughout the night. Voting in true Texas style. The message to get to the polls, even if it's the old-fashioned way.
Good evening and welcome to an historic election night.
Voters in Austin and across the country are still casting their votes tonight. The final hour of voting starts now in Central Texas. 100 million Americans cast their votes early, including 9.7 million Texans. That is 57% of registered voters. The Travis County Clerk says 42,000 people have cast their ballots today. There is still time tonight. If you're in line by 7 o'clock, you will be able to vote.
It's going to be a busy night. We have live team coverage across the area tonight with a focus on the local races. And in 15 minutes, we'll head out to the polls with CBS Austin's Adele Uchida. Tonight, City of Austin voters will make a big decision about how people will get around 10 years from now. Prop A is a $7 billion transit overhaul that asks voters to approve a tax rate increase to help foot the bill. CBS Austin's Melanie Torrey is following Prop A tonight for us. And Melanie, passing light rail has been an uphill battle here in Austin.
It was 20 years ago that Austin voters were first asked to approve a light rail plan. It failed in 2000 and other proposals have failed since, but supporters say this time is different because this is a city-wide plan. Prop A includes the Orange Line. That's a train through central Austin from 183 in North Lamar down south to Stastny. It also includes a tunnel underground in downtown, so trains can move without ever crossing traffic. And then there's the Blue Line, which takes people directly to the Austin airport. Mayor Steve Adler says this can't wait any longer, and the time is now.
The cost of not doing this is so much greater than the cost of doing this now. This is the single most important thing we can do to deal with traffic, and goodness knows people want us to do something real and substantial about traffic. It is the most important thing for climate change, and we need to get started on that.
But just like in years past, this plan still faces a fight. Those against Prop A say individuals and businesses cannot handle a tax increase right now. According to the city, Prop A would increase the average Austin homeowner's property tax bill by 4% overall. Melanie Torrey, CBS Austin News.
Thanks, Mel. Happening now, Texas National Guard troops are deployed at the state capitol just in case violent protests erupt. Major General Tracy Norris says they are not at polling locations. Their job tonight is to secure historical landmarks such as the Alamo and the state capitol.
With just an hour left to vote, more businesses in Austin are also getting ready for potential unrest. CBS Austin's Gabriela Vidal found businesses on Congress Avenue boarding up their storefronts tonight.
Some more businesses on Congress Avenue have been boarding up their windows and their doors today. You can see one of those storefronts right here, the Kruger's Jewelry Store just off of 8th Street. Now, Austin police recently told CBS Austin they will be on tactical alert the entire week of elections, meaning the entire force will be ready in uniform in case they need to be deployed. The property owner of one of the buildings being boarded up tells me while he's taking precautions, he's hopeful the public will respect people's businesses if protesting following election results.
Well, I think it's sort of the state of our nation right now. There's so much division and so much hate. And I think we need to find common ground and what we can agree upon and work to what we agree upon and not what we have discourse on.
APD says they'll be working in coordination with the Travis County Sheriff's Office and the Department of Public Safety to help ensure the community is kept safe. Reporting in downtown Austin, Gabriela Vidal, CBS Austin News.
In Williamson County, last-minute voters are getting in line to cast their ballots. CBS Austin's Melanie Barden is live at a Randall's voting location in Round Rock. Melanie, how are the lines out there tonight?
Well, all day long here in Williamson County, voting waiting lines have been consistently below 15 minutes. The one exception, though, has been this Randall's here in Round Rock. Take a look at that line. You can see it's stretching down the sidewalk. It's remained that length pretty much all day. Online it says if you come out here right now, you're going to have to wait about 45 minutes to vote. Still, voters here tell me this line is nowhere near as long as it was on Election Day in 2016. That could be partly due to the massive early voting turnout in Williamson County. It was one of the highest in the state. According to a county election page, as of just a few minutes ago, more than 24,000 people have voted today alone, and a total of more than 68% of registered voters have cast their ballot this election so far.
I think honestly, when early voting first started, I saw the most amount of people like trying to just get in, get their votes in. But after the first couple weeks of early voting, I mean, it kind of thinned out and the lines haven't been long at all. So it's really nice to see.
On the ballot here in Williamson County, 2 county commissioners are up for re-election, several district judges, and of course the Williamson County Sheriff's race. We are going to have complete coverage of all the election results here in Williamson County, both on air and online. Reporting live, Melanie Barton, CBS Austin News.
There are a lot of races to watch tonight. As Melanie said, be sure to stay with CBS Austin for election night updates throughout the evening. We'll bring you live results on air and at cbsaustin.com.
Now your Storm Tracker weather.
Here locally, no complaints. The weather absolutely cooperated for all of the voting today. On the other hand, as we go from Central Texas, where high pressure is in control, we go down to Central America, where it is anything but. Hurricane Eta made landfall as a Category 4 with 140-mile-per-hour winds. Now it has weakened to a Category 2 as it's pushing inland into Nicaragua. It is going to dump copious amounts of rain, possibly as much as isolated 3-foot totals, as the storm pushes from Nicaragua into Honduras, and that's where things get even more complicated. The storm may swing through Guatemala, make its way to Belize, and then reemerge in the Northwest Caribbean. From there, official forecast actually takes this thing across Cuba and potentially close to Florida. And that's not even the end of the story. There are several computer models that are tracking the storm even into the Gulf of Mexico. Now, ahead in your CBS Austin 7-day, I'm tracking a cold front here for Central Texas, and I'll let you know when it arrives and how that plays into Eta's track.
Thanks, Chicago. Texans voting at a drive-through poll. The remaining locations in Houston, and why county officials scrapped 9 more late last night.
A live look out at the polls tonight. You still have time to get in line by 7 o'clock. This is a historic election with record voter turnout already. We'll take you there live in just a few minutes.
You're watching CBS Austin News at 6. Central Texas. Trusted.
Fencing and barriers are up around the Alamo tonight. City officials say they don't expect any trouble. They say this is only a security precaution. Barriers will surround the Alamo until the end of the week. San Antonio's famous landmark is always under a watchful eye. Fencing was also put up back in June during protests over racial inequality.
Right now, the Toyota Center is the only remaining drive-through voting location in Houston. County officials decided last night to close 9 of the 10 drive-through polls. Earlier in the day, a federal judge denied a Republican bid to block 127,000 drive-through ballots, but the judge also questioned the validity of using tents on Election Day. For that reason, officials opted to close all but 1 drive-through location.
My cousin is blind, he's disabled, and I'm an asthmatic, so I feared for standing in line.
The remaining site is at the Toyota Center, facility with walls and a roof, so officials were confident it could stay open. The polls are still open right now. Our election coverage continues with a live report as people get their votes in during the final hour.
And I don't think very many people figured in November we would still be tracking the tropics, but we are. Hurricane Eta in Central America now and may have its sights set on the United States in the days to come. Tracking it, plus how long this nice weather lasts coming up.
We are counting down to the closing of the polls in Travis County. About 45 minutes to go now, but it looks like people aren't having to wait long to vote tonight.
CBS Austin's Adela Uchida is live at a polling location in central Austin. Adela, how long is the wait there? What have you been seeing?
Well, so far we're seeing a few people come in. I'm at Congregation Beth Israel on Show Creek Boulevard, and I've seen a few people come in and be ushered right in because there is no wait. And most voting sites are showing little or no wait on the county clerk website. Now, this is in stark contrast to the first days of early voting. You might remember people waited for hours to cast ballots. One election judge I talked to today says it seems like the majority of people got out for early voting. The Travis County Voter Registrar says about 65% of registered voters turned out during early voting, and that it's been more than 30 years since we've seen more than 70%, but we could be on track for that tonight. Meantime, tonight, there are still voters turning out. We just saw one woman go in right now, just not in the numbers that we saw back in mid-October. The exception right now, though, may be the location at the Manor ISD Administration Building. The website shows about a 50-minute wait there tonight. Live in Central Austin, Adela Uchida, CBS Austin News.
Now your Storm Tracker weather with Chief Meteorologist Chikage Wendler.
So the big story today is not our beautiful weather here in Central Texas, but instead Hurricane Eta, which made landfall earlier this afternoon as a Category 4 hurricane. Now that same storm system might even have its sights set on Cuba and even on into areas of the United States. So this is going to be something that is going to be a real player in the weather for the coming days. Hurricane Eta again made landfall earlier. It has now weakened down to a Category 2 storm with winds of about 110 miles per hour, and it's going to continue working its way westward through Nicaragua, then make its way toward Honduras as it does so, dumping rain, heavy rain. Some of the estimates are between 15 to 25 inches of rain possible. So here we go. We're going to look at a Category 2 storm weakening to a Category 1, then becoming a remnant area of low pressure. But the story of Eta is not yet done. It appears that it will push out into the Caribbean as it does so, re-strengthening to a tropical storm, pushing across Cuba, and by late this weekend might have its sights set on Florida. And then some computer models swing it into the Gulf of Mexico. Now here's what I'm thinking. In 1 week from tonight, there's going to be a cold front pushing through central Texas. That front will then deflect Eta away from our area and push it likely farther to the east. So at this point, I'm expecting Hurricane Eta by then, probably just a tropical storm or maybe even a tropical depression, might be heading toward the central to eastern Gulf Coast. So this is a story that's going to go on for several more days, as it's likely we are not done yet with the influence of Hurricane Eta. As far as what we can expect here locally, our weather has been absolutely fantastic as of late. And overall, I'm expecting that will probably continue. We're going to see high temperatures in the 80s every single day and low temperatures that have been cool. This morning we woke up to some 40s and some 30s. We'll start to see those low temperatures creep upward as well. How about 60 degrees by the time we reach Saturday for a low, 66 by Monday, and 68 degrees by Tuesday, with high temperatures nudging into the mid 80s. And for whatever reason, try as I might, my computer is not advancing to the 7-day forecast, but rest assured we don't have any rain in the forecast until a 10% chance early on Monday, and then a 20% chance when that cold front rolls through late on Tuesday.
Friends meet again. Why Jimbo Fisher is not excited to play his old buddy Will Muschamp this weekend. Plus, inconsistently consistent. Why Texas hopping back into the polls at number 22 to face unranked West Virginia isn't exactly ideal. CBS Austin Sports from the Blue Turf is next.
This is the Thomas J. Henry Sports Desk.
A work in progress, and there's times out there where it feels like we're playing with 11 true freshmen that are playing in their whatever it is sixth ball game, because in the new system everything is different.
Look, every team in the country is a work in progress at all times throughout its season. We saw the progress from the Texas defense on Saturday in Stillwater. The Texas offense is 8th in the country in scoring offense. So for Tom Herman, at least things seem to be trending in the right direction. But hanging over Herman's head is this unsettling statistic. Since he took over in 2017, No team in the country loses more as a ranked team to an unranked opponent than Texas. It's happened 6 times. Saturday's win in Stillwater was a great reminder that UT is great as an underdog. It's figuring out the other part that's frustrating.
And that's a point of emphasis that we've got to get ironed out here as we continue to grow as a team and play more consistently against the teams that aren't ranked.
Few college coaches share the history that Jimbo Fisher and Will Muschamp do. The two started a friendship 25 years ago at Auburn, reunited at LSU in the early 2000s, and then formed their own rivalry as head coaches at Florida and Florida State. Heck, at one point, the two owned a beach house together in the Florida Panhandle. Fisher's Aggies, though, are now 2-0 against Muschamp's Gamecocks, though Fisher doesn't exactly like this matchup.
You know, this business is so tough and rough because one of us at the end of the day is not going to feel good, and you hate for it to be anybody that you have very good friendships with. You're in this business so long, everybody becomes your daggone friend. Will and I go way, way back, and I always look at him very favorably as a friend, and like, I don't particularly like playing friends, to be honest with you.
Hey, remember when Muschamp was head coach in waiting at Texas? That was more than a decade ago. Crazy. The Aggies are rolling now, back up to 7th in the country, and they legit should enter the final week at Auburn 8-1, as long as they stay in their own little bubble.
You got to live up to your own expectations, and that's how you prepare every day. It's how you practice every day. It's how you think. That's the world where you have to live in. And whether you're never a favorite in any game. Listen, everybody in this league can beat you. Everybody's got great players. It's about us preparing, playing, and handling our business one game at a time, one day at a time. This week, there are no favorites. There are no underdogs. You just got to play the game and be the best you can be.
Big news out of Dallas. Andy Dalton will not return this week. He hits the COVID list. That means it's Ben DiNucci starting at quarterback again, unless, of course, the Cowboys turn to their backup quarterback, Garrett Gilbert. That's sports from the Blue Turf. Bob Ballou, CBS Austin Sports. CBS Austin News at 6 is back after this.
Election night continues, and we could be in for a long night.
A live look right now out at the polls. This is in Maryland tonight. Polls there have already started to close, but as you may know, people who are in line can still cast their ballots. Polls will remain open for another 30 minutes here in Texas. In Austin, Travis County, we know more than 42,000 people have already voted just today. You still have time. The Travis County Clerk reminds everyone, if you are in line by 7 o'clock, you will still get to vote.
Now, it doesn't matter how you get to the polls as long as you cast your ballot. Take a look at this. Some Texans, including Houston Mayor Sylvester Turner, made it to the polls in true Texas style on horseback. He remarked on the record turnout and that the changes made this year made it easy and accessible for more people to get out and vote. Now, in just moments, political analyst Brian Smith joins us live in the studio as we try to break down what could happen tonight and when we could learn the results.
And voting issues at the polls, the problems seen around the nation today and why some cities are potentially bracing for violence. Those stories and more still ahead at 6:30. Stay with us.